Today I want to talk very briefly about keeping sheep as pets. And sheep make wonderful pets. For one thing, they're very docile, and for the most part they're really friendly. And to start out with, if you wanted a sheep as a pet, I would recommend a bottle baby. And I don't recommend a ram unless you're prepared to castrate or have that male castrated, because rams make terrible pets if they're bottle babies because they're not afraid of human interaction. However, a wether or a ewe makes a wonderful pet. They'll follow you anywhere. One reason that lambs make wonderful pets is because they're so gentle and easygoing. But keep in mind, sheep tend to have a flocking instinct, which means that they need more than one of their own. So unless you're prepared to have two, preferably even three sheep is the best, because you can't really have a flock of two. It's more of a three. So did you know that sheep actually remember faces, and they'll remember their name? So after you name your sheep, they'll actually remember that that's their name. And they remember faces of other sheep and the faces of the humans that they have contact with, as well as the voices. And if you've ever been around sheep, you'll know that the person who's the shepherd or shepherdess will call to the sheep, and the sheep will recognize that voice. And sometimes farm sitters will be instructed to not talk to the sheep, just open the door and let them in, because once the sheep hear the different voice, they will run away in fear of that strange voice. And so when it comes to picking the type of sheep, like I mentioned, a bottle baby is perfect because they're already used to human interaction, and also either a wether or a ewe, a female sheep. Now, my own personal opinion is I would not recommend a sheep with horns, because animals who have horns know how to use their horns. Take cattle, goats, and sheep, for example. Deer, moose, they all know that they're aware of the fact that they have the horns, and so they will use them. And so that may be something you may want to consider, avoiding a breed of sheep that has horns. Another factor to consider when you're thinking about having a sheep as a pet is a hair sheep versus a wool sheep. And certainly there are lots of wool sheep who are very friendly and make excellent pets, but you need to realize that with the wool sheep you'll have to shear them once or twice a year, and so that's an added either expense or something that you'll need to learn how to do on your own. For an experienced shearer, it's very quick and rapid, and the wool, the fleece for one sheep won't be worth as much as the price it'll cost to have the sheep shorn. So my personal opinion is I would recommend a hair sheep, because you don't need to shear them. They just shed out every spring. And so the last thing to consider when you're thinking about having a sheep as a pet is where you're going to store or keep the sheep. You can't bring it in your house. Certainly a baby sheep, a lamb, you can put a diaper or pull-up on and they'll be fine. You just change the pull-up. But house training a sheep is not something I've ever heard of. I'm not saying it's impossible, but sheep just defecate and urinate whenever the notion hits them. So keeping them inside, an apartment or a house is not something I'd recommend. You'll need some sort of a shelter for them, perhaps even a pasture. You'll need to consider fencing, and then in the event that you're not going to be around, you'll need someone to come take care of that sheep for you. Sheep live to be, on average, 6 to 12 years. So it may go a little bit either way. You may have some sheep who live longer, you may have some sheep who don't live as long. But consider the fact that if you're wanting a sheep for a pet, you're probably going to be with that animal for about 10 to 12. Some of the other sheep that make great pets are like the Southdown or Baby Doll and the Shetland sheep, though the Shetland sheep do have horns, but they're small. So they make, their small size is a little bit less intimidating. But you know, another pro about the hair sheep is that you don't need to dock or cut off their tails, and they're more parasite resistant. The last thing I'll leave you with is look around your local area and see if you have a veterinarian who sees sheep, because the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you have a medical emergency and no veterinarian available to take care of your pet.